All right, today is July 18, 2019. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes Storage Special Interest Group. So today on the agenda, we're going to go over the items that we've committed to for Q3, the 116 release, and get status updates from everyone. Important upcoming dates that you should be aware of. The most immediate one is the enhancement freeze. This is the date by which you must have a issue in the Kubernetes enhancement repo opened if you have a feature that is going into the 116 release. If you don't have a feature opened, the release team will not accept the feature. In addition to having a feature opened, you need to have a KEP that has been approved. So please keep that in mind. This date is within 2 weeks, which means we're not going to meet again before this date. Please make sure you get whatever you need merged before this date arrives. So let's go ahead and jump into our spreadsheet and start doing status updates. First item we have is CSI migration to beta. Either David, Cheng, or Deep, do any of you have an update on this? Looks like none of them are on the call today, so we'll skip that for this time and get an update next time. Next item is CSI online offline resizing volume expansion to beta. Amant, are you on the line?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we have been tracking. I have updated the cap that we are tracking for beta. We have all the issues marked. There's some work going on to table drive the E2E tests so that it can run for CSI drivers too. And yeah, I think we should be on target for this one. And yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Next item is block volume support for CSI and Entry. It's going to remain beta, but we want to do stress testing and fix known issues. Ben or Brad, do either of you have an update on this?
Did we say that it would remain beta even if we fixed all the known issues?
That was the understanding from last time we spoke.
Okay, yeah. Then I need to update something in GitHub, but
Okay.
But yeah, we have a list of issues that we're tracking and working on.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben.
Is that Brad talking?
No, that wasn't. But I heard whoever it was, I don't know if that they intended to.
Brad, did you have anything to add though?
The iSCSI is pretty much the only thing outstanding here. I think the rest of it's in good shape. But like we said earlier, it's either all of it or none of it, right?
So are we actually trying to target GA this release, because the enhancement issue has GA target on it?
Yeah, that was the issue that I brought up. I think no, so that was my mistake. I should change the enhancement issue. Say 117 at the earliest.
Okay. Next item is scalability testing. Did this person end up?
I'm here. One PR about the first two cases of ephemeral volumes was merged to performance test of SIG scalability. And I opened another PR to add these test cases to periodic jobs of SIG scalability. And I am also working on another PR for the last test cases of ephemeral volumes. One more point, I am only working for ephemeral volumes.
Okay.
I think there are another person who work on the PVC size. Michelle knows better than me.
Okay. So one PR for testing ephemeral volumes merged, another PR in progress, plus PR open to add jobs to the scalability suite. And this is all for ephemeral. And for persistent, is Will on the line by any chance? He is not. We'll get a status update from him next time on the persistent volume scalability tests. All right, next item is the CSI library moving the mount library to an external common repo so that it can be consumed both by core Kubernetes and CSI drivers. Travis, any updates on this?
I can give an update for Travis.
Sure.
He has a PR out to move the entire mount library into the utilities repo. So that is in progress.
Okay. All right. Next item is per volume attached limits. This is implement a beta redesign of both for CSI and Entry. Jan, are you on the line?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. So the major PR is in. We are working on fixing some caching issues and testing.
Nice work. Cool. All right. Do we need a cap for this one?
We already have a cap.
Okay.
I'll link the cap
here. Just for the sake of completeness. All right, next item is volume snapshot namespace transfer. John, I need to review that KEP. I know your KEP is out. Anything else you want to add? Doesn't look like John's on the line. Okay, let's go ahead and move this item down since it's P3. Move some of the P2 items back up. Okay, I'll do that afterwards. Address issue for PVPVC, I think we ended up not committing, having anybody to work on this. Did that change, Michelle?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll skip over that. And then group volume snapshot consistency groups API. Xing or Jing, any updates on that? Looks like a lot of people are out for summer vacation this week. So we'll keep that empty and get a status update next time. Generic data source populator. So I believe John has sent out a KEP for this. And that KEP needs to be reviewed. Next item is moving the NFS driver, or the NFS driver out of tree has already been moved. It needs some fit and finish stuff, including image building, testing, CI/CD, documentation, things like that. Mathusin was working on this. Any updates on this?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to work on the documentation, but I'll try to get a PR up by tomorrow.
Okay.
But do you know where I can get any info on for the creating a build image?
Yeah,
the driver?
I think somebody from the CSI work group can probably help.
Yeah, you can ping me.
Okay.
I think it should not be too difficult.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Mathusin. Next is the iSCSI driver. John is not here. So we'll just mark that as no updates. And then moving fiber channel. Nobody's working on the fiber channel driver. Anyone interested in helping move the fiber channel driver to a new home and updating it and making sure it actually works and builds and all of that? Okay, in that case, we'll keep moving on. Next item is new design for volume file permission handling. Consider everything from kernel changes to Kubernetes API changes. Brad, any updates on this?
No, I don't have an update on these two.
Okay, so Jing from my team should be able to help with this as well.
Okay.
And I think she has a proposed design that she's working on, so you can sync up with her and hopefully we'll get a KEP out soon.
Cool.
Next item is revisit UID, GID handling with volumes. This is very much related. Let's put Jing's name on this as well. Next item is non-recursive volume ownership. So I believe Jing took a look at this and there is some concern about modifying this behavior without introducing a new field in the API to control it. So we may not want to do this, but I think Jing is going to evaluate. Next item is file permission handling for Windows. Deep, are you on the line by any chance?
Yeah, I just joined a little late. No specific updates here either. I guess I need to follow up with Jing now.
Okay, I think Jing is also interested in helping out here, so.
Great, okay.
Okay. Next item is volume expansion for stateful sets. Somebody from SIG Apps is the owner. Last we checked, it was blocked on resize for offline. Hemant, were you able to follow up with anybody from SIG Apps on this?
Yeah, so the enhancement looks much better, but I think there was a outstanding. I was talking to Michelle, and there was an open concern that only for offline expansion, there's a chance that if the expansion failed, we may not be able to recover the pods, like bring them back online, because the stateful controller, the design says that it's going to wait for the expansion to finish before restarting the pod. So I think we need to think on that. So
Okay.
That's where we are.
And is that something that we can say for alpha, it's a known issue and we address in beta or something like that?
I would think so, yeah, because that also ties into the general problem of how to recover from resize failures.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. And then is Sadak still the person working on this?
Yeah, and this has approval from SIG Apps already, so it just logged on us.
Got it. Cool. Thanks, Aman. Next item is volume taints. I think this is something we still need. I don't know if this needs a standalone KEP. I think it should be part of the data populators. KEP or the volume health KEP. I don't think it needs a standalone KEP. I'm going to go ahead and scratch this.
Wasn't that part of snapshots already anyway?
Volume taints, not that I'm aware of.
Oh, for some reason.
I think my understanding is the two use cases for volume taints are volume health and data populator stuff to figure out some way to be able to hold off making a volume available before it's been filled with data.
Okay. For some reason, I thought Jing and Xing were already working on that for snapshot restore. But
Okay, so I might be mistaken. I'll scratch it out and then we can check next time
Yep,
if
yep.
Xing or Jing are
Sounds good.
available. Next item is CSI Volume Health. Nick Wren is working on this. Does anybody have an update on this? Okay. Next item is post-GA entry topology work, which we had no one committed to do the work. Anybody interested on the SIG to help with this? The work should be fairly straightforward. You have to switch the default storage class to use late binding and backfill older PVs with node affinity. And
So there has been some movement on this. I think I proposed a way to do the backfilling through CSI migration. The part to switch the default storage class is actually kind of tricky because we need to think about if that actually breaks behavior and if there's a better way to deprecate or, transition away from that.
Okay. Okay, so non-trivial, and are you just the primary person looking at it right now?
I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
I'm not planning to work on it though.
Okay, so we'll leave it unassigned for now. Next item is pass ownership and created by metadata from stateful set to PVC. I think Haley had a design here.
Yeah,
updates?
I'm here.
Go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so we were talking about the, me and Michelle were talking about the design, and I think I missed a discussion where there's an idea for a new API object that CSI would take in called like a volume group object. And I think with the context I have, I think that's a better design overall than kind of putting a metadata annotation into it. So I think I don't have the capacity to do that whole API, but I'm willing to work on the part where that's related to the volume spreading.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think just at first blush, I think having something similar to like a topology requirement, I think potentially that and just a unique ID on the create volume call would be a way to do it.
Okay. I'll put you down for as a reviewer for volume group. If I can find volume group. Let's see. Okay, I'll do that later. But for number 23, I'll just go ahead and scratch that for now. Thanks, Haley.
Yeah, no problem.
Feel free to sync up with Xing or Jing on the volume group stuff.
Sure, thank you.
Next item is CSI Entry read-only handling. We were looking for somebody to help own this. John, I think you preliminarily put your name down. Any progress or renewed commitment here?
I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get to it,
Okay.
but it's tied to populators anyway, so until that starts moving, you can leave my name there.
Okay. Next item is alpha beta GA designation for the CSI spec. I don't have any updates on this. The proposal was approved last quarter. It hasn't actually been implemented yet. Next item is support containerized CSI node plugins in Windows with storage proxy. Do you have any updates on that?
Yeah, so I have a cap out for that. Michelle took a look. I also had the SIG Windows chair, Patrick, take a look as well. So I will address the comments and hopefully get it ready for implementing.
Sweet. Thank you. And should get the enhancement issue and cap and just link them here if you can.
Yeah, I'll add that.
Cool. Thank you. Snapshots to beta. The big changes are API, secrets, and new controllers. Xing, Jing, anybody have an update on this? So I know they held a meeting last week to discuss some of the change, the changes that are required. So this is still a work in progress. I think there's going to be a lot of work here. If you're interested in helping with this, reach out to Jing or Xing. Next item is volume cloning. For volume cloning, John, we want to move that to beta. Any updates on that?
I think we're looking pretty good. I mean, we've got the EDE test, we've updated the KEP, we added the scribe, it's tagged. So I think unless somebody comes up with something, I don't see any reason not to. My only concern would be that I don't know how many people other than myself are actually using it. But
okay. And is the enhancement issue been updated as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
As far as it's been updated, it's tagged for 1.16 beta. Is that what you mean?
Perfect. And could you link those here?
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Cool. Thank you very much. Next item is ephemeral CSI volumes, inline support. We did not have anybody committed to working on that. Michelle, do you know if anyone's working on it from the CSI work group?
Patrick is taking a look at this.
Okay. And is there work in progress right now, or?
Yeah, I think he's currently prototyping.
Okay. Okay. Next item is CSI topology prep for GA. It's going to remain in beta this quarter, but more tests, clean up the code. Is that on track, Michelle?
I am planning on working on it.
Okay. And next item is CSI Driver, skip attach, and PotInfo prep for GA. We didn't have anyone committed last time for this work. Has that changed? Michelle, do you know if anyone's working on the skip attach PotInfo stuff, the CSI?
No one, yeah, no one's working on this.
Okay. So if anybody in this SIG is interested in helping with some of the core CSI objects, this would be a good opportunity to do so. Please reach out to one of us. All right, next item is improving CSI metrics. This is being worked on by Sean Chin, who I don't believe is on the call. Michelle, can you give an update on his behalf, possibly?
I'm not sure if he started work on this yet. I know Hamad also has a PR in progress, so.
Okay.
Yeah, he is looking into it, and I have a PR as well, so we'll do it, implement it in 1.16 timeline.
Okay, sounds good. Next item is CSI out of tree, move Flex Driver into a separate repo. CoffYC was working on this. Does anyone have an update on that?
So I think the code is moved, but the main thing now is to set up the actual image building and testing and stuff with it. And I don't think he has time to do that.
Okay. So if anybody on this call is interested in helping with the Flex Volume Adapter for CSI, this would be a good project to help on. Please reach out to one of us and we can get you started on that. All right, two more issues. SIG apps address issue PVC created by stateful set will not be auto removed. And this was brought up by, I think, Gary on the call last time. When stateful set is deleted, optionally, we want to allow automatic deletion of PVCs. Gary, are you on the call? Okay, so unless someone has an update, we're going to mark this as no update for now. And the other SIG apps co-owned item here is execution hook for application snapshots. And I'm going to mark that as no update for now. Okay, thank you for putting up with that. Now we'll move on to the rest of the agenda. So as a reminder, please make sure your enhancement issue and KEPs are approved and merged by July 30th for any of the features that you're working on for this quarter. And we don't have any PRs to discuss or designs to review. We have a few miscellaneous items from Michelle, Chang, and Jan. So let's start with the first one, deprecating kubelet attach detach. Michelle?
Yeah, I think, oh, did I point to the wrong issue?
Oh.
I think there is, well, in this issue, sorry, go back. In this issue, I have a link to another issue there, yeah. But I think basically this option has pretty much been untested for a very long time, and it's very likely that as we add new features and stuff, we're gonna forget about this option and it's going to break. So I propose that we actually deprecate it.
Anybody on the call know if they're using the this flag on the kubelet to disable the attach detach controller?
I think the main thing is that I think in our docs, we actually recommended that you use this option for flex drivers, maybe?
So our flex driver uses it, but we're doing everything we can to deprecate. I mean, it's deprecated. We're trying to push everyone off of it. So hopefully it's not going to be an issue.
Do you know what your timeline looks like for that to happen?
It's deprecated, but we have a partner that's trying to bring it back, and we're still in that
Okay.
back and forth. So hopefully this is more grist for my don't bring it back mill.
Got it. Okay.
The other, I think the other challenge someone pointed out is that they use this option to bootstrap the, is it the master control plane? So if we deprecated that option, then that means the only thing you can do for bootstrapping there is empty dir or host path volumes. So I don't know if that bootstrapping use case is something we still want to support. I know that CSI, as it stands today, is not supported as a bootstrapping plugin.
Okay. So if you care about this, or if you know anybody who does, please reach out, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to start to push for a deprecation of this flag. Thank you. Anything else, Michelle?
No, that's all I had on this topic.
Okay.
Would it be worth broadcasting as well to the mailing list?
Yes, that's a good idea.
Cool. All right, next item is Chang. Go ahead, Chang.
Yeah, so I brought this up about a month ago, and the plan at that time was we're going to send out a survey in the SIG to ask who is still on, who uses any of the master API calls for flex volume. So far, I haven't gotten any responses. My next step, I was thinking, is to send it out to a wider audience, broadcast it to Kubernetes dev, and see if anything happens. But if no response is there, I don't know if we want to start a deprecation policy, or just say we just don't support master APIs for distroless distributions.
Okay. So for those of you who missed the emails, the context here is that, or do you want to add the context chain about
sure,
what distroless is and why we're making this change?
Yeah, so we're hoping in 1.15 and beyond to move all the core component images to distroless, which means it does not have, it's missing a lot of the core binaries that you would expect on a Linux system. One of them is one of them being shell. Flex volume, some flex volume master APIs require, or some flex volume drivers are written with executing through shell in mind. And that's not going to be possible for the controller manager binary in particular. And so once we move that to distroless, and so master side flex volume APIs would not work.
Okay, cool. So if you think you're affected by that, please reach out. Next item is another deprecation, Jan, deprecating CSI Cluster Driver Registrar.
So I announced the intent to deprecate the registrar 2 weeks ago, and since then I got only positive feedback. So this is actually mostly like announcement. I started or updating the documentation and all the tests and everything. So the registrar, it wasn't working since Kubernetes 1.14. We didn't ship it in 1.14. We didn't ship it in 1.15. Nobody seemed to miss it. So now it's officially deprecated and you should not use it.
And what is the alternative and where can folks find that?
The alternative is to create CSI driver object either in installation manifest or during the installation of the driver. I am updating documentation on Kubernetes CSI/docs.
Cool. Thank you very much, Jan. So if you are a CSI driver owner and you've been relying on the cluster driver registrar sidecar container, please note that that sidecar container has been deprecated. It's no longer supported. There's a different mechanism for doing what it does. Please make sure you update your CSI driver to handle this correctly as you do updates. All right, that is the last item we have. Does anybody else have anything else they want to talk about?
Hi, this is Yusuf from Pure Storage. So we had started a thread on migration for out-of-tree drivers from Flex to CSI. I was just wondering if there's any thought about that. I know I saw some entry documentation, but what about out-of-tree? Has there been any thought on that?
So is your question specifically on how that migration is going to work, or what exactly is your question?
Yeah. What if there are PVCs already created / mounted, and then we want to migrate the driver, update the driver?
Got it. So is David on the line, David Zhu or Chang or Deep?
Yeah, so I think like if you have an existing PVC for an entry driver, then what happens is everything stays the same as far as the user is concerned. But when the feature flags for migration is enabled, then the entry has a bunch of shims that will direct all the operations from the entry code to the CSI code.
Yeah, the problem with this one is that this is a flex volume. So I think it will be difficult to write a generic shim for flex volumes because it's going to be very specific to that flex driver. So then we'll need to think of what options we have available to that.
Wasn't there a card of like Flex CSI bridge? Will that help?
The adapter is one way to do it. So actually, Yusuf, are you talking about the flex volume driver?
Yeah, flex volume.
And so if I understand correctly, you have a flex volume driver and you want to figure out a way to be able to migrate the existing flex volume driver to a new CSI driver.
Well, kind of. So actually, to be more specific, we want to update. So we already have a CSI driver. We're almost shipping that. But we want to, how do we update a cluster that's currently using the Flex driver to the CSI driver? Given that PVCs could have been created using the Flex driver.
Got it.
So I saw some of the entry stuff, but I wasn't sure if there's been any thought about the...
Yeah, the entry stuff was all focused on the drivers that are core entry, the cloud provider drivers and so on. Michelle's right, we haven't really thought through the flex volume case. I think this is something worth thinking about.
Yeah, I think there's two main approaches I see. One is either we actually create new PVs, equivalent PVs, with the CSI parameters, and then we have to swap over all the PVCs to use those PVs. The other approach, which is what the Entry migration project is focused on, is to actually just translate the API objects sort of in memory or on the fly without actually persisting those translations in the actual PV objects.
Right. But I think for flex volume, there's no external provisioner concept, right? Like there's a completely separate provisioner that's maintained independent of the flex volume itself. So I guess provisioner would be another interesting thing to handle if we were to do number 2.
Provisioning seems a little easier than so we tried approach 1 that you mentioned, create new PVs with CSI. Someone on our team, Dina, noticed that Kubelet has a cache, and even though we updated the PVs, sometimes we'll get a call to the CSI driver, sometimes we'll get a call to the Flex driver, depending on the Kubelet cache.
Yeah, so for that, you have to make sure that you stop using any volumes, let the unmounts happen, and then do the translation and then start using them again. Is that not feasible?
So you're saying before we change the PVs, make sure that they're not being used, and then when they stop being used, that's when we migrate them over?
Yep.
So we thought about that. The problem, though, is in some environments, we don't know when a pod will go down or restart. And so do we give guidance that they have to restart all their pods to do the migration? Or do we have to maintain, dual drivers for a while?
Yeah, I think what you would want to do is
is it possible to maintain dual drivers but then like force a restart on the pods, and then once all the pods have been restarted, then you can remove the Flex driver?
So I don't know if forcing a restart on the pods is gonna work. We'd have to think about that. But would that solve the? So you're saying before we migrate, we force a restart, or we migrate then force a restart?
You can migrate in place.
I think we need Kubelet to restart or reset its cache.
I think you can migrate in place, but then as you mentioned, it might still call the Flex driver, or it might call the CSI driver depending on how it's cached. But once you drain the pods from that node, then Kubelet no longer, all that information should be cleared.
Okay, you're saying maintain it till we restart the pods and then we delete the driver. Maintain 2 drivers until we restart. And then after we restart all the pods, we should be able to delete the old driver.
Yep, that should do it. Basically, you just want Kubelet to know that there's a new type of volume and stop knowing about the old. And the only way to do that is to force a pod deletion, which will cause unmount to happen against Flex. And then when the new pod gets created, it'll be with CSI.
Okay. And, so theoretically, that should work. We just don't know in enterprise scenarios of restarting pods is, from a customer perspective, we don't know if that's going to fly.
So this should be something that they should expect, because pods can be restarted for a number of reasons anyway. If they don't tolerate that, that's a bigger problem.
Okay. So thanks for the suggestion. We'll run that by our team, and we'll see how it goes from there.
Okay.
Is there a thread or like someone we contact, or should we just jump back on the next meeting for?
There should be a GitHub issue already open to sort of discuss this.
Okay, I think we
So-
started the issue. I'm not sure. We have an issue. I'm not sure if there's another one.
There's an
there,
issue in
but-
Kubernetes sort of talking about this. I think one thing that's definitely missing though is documentation. We don't have any documentation on like the current sequence to swap over PVCs to a new PV.
Yeah, so if this works, can you guys put together something to share with the rest of the community on how you did it?
Yeah, sure. We'll give it a try and then we'll go from there.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? All right, then you get 10 minutes back in your day, and we'll reconvene in 2 weeks. Thank you.
So now.
Sure. Sorry, was there a comment?
He said, have a good day.
All right. Take care, everyone.
See you guys.